Welcome to Two Circles. Today we have with us Advocate Mahmood Pracha Sahab. He has been fighting several terror cases, in fact large number of terror cases on behalf of several groups and Muslim organizations like Jamiat Ulama, APCR. So welcome to Two Circles, Pracha Sahab. You almost had no experience of UAPA or terror cases when it came, but you took up the case of Mahmood Kazmi and Muhammad Ahmad Kazmi, and you succeeded in getting bail from the Supreme Court. And how would you like to share your experience?
Yes, sure. In fact, I started off as a criminal lawyer a long time ago, but then I had shifted to other areas of practice, and therefore you can safely say that I had no experience of handling any terror cases, and I am quite ashamed of myself that I did not take up these cases. Like everybody else, I also had a preconceived notion, or the atmosphere which was created or which is being created by almost everybody in the country, including the maximum role of creating an atmosphere which is a false atmosphere, which is atmosphere which is absolutely not true. I also was a victim of that, and I saw these terror law cases without going into the depth of these cases as something which a lawyer should not actually pick up. But when I was actually handling how I took up Sayyid Muhammad Ahmad Kazmi, the Israeli embassy bomb blast cases, that I got to know of him and got to know about Mr. Kazmi when I was handling a case of Karbala. Actually, this is a Waqf land, prime Waqf land in Jodhpur. So he was one of the leaders of this resistance or agitation which was going on to free Waqf land from the hands of land mafia and Waqf mafia, which was actually supported at the back by people in high places, both in bureaucracy as well as in politics. So I happened to know him from that time, and because I knew him personally and I got to know of him, I was absolutely sure that this man would not do such an act. So that was the turning point. And then his own lawyer, who is a very reputed lawyer, I should not be naming him, but when he initially he engaged a very reputed lawyer in Delhi, he told him that this is a very difficult case. This defense counsel told him, actually, Mr. Kazmi, that this is a very difficult case and he can actually talk to the police and make him an approver. Mr. Kazmi, all credit must go to him, and his family members were not ready for this. They approached me. I told them that I have not taken up any cases of criminal law for a long time, but then they had seen me handling other cases, so they were probably confident that I will be able to do some justice in this case. I took that case up on one condition, which Mr. Kazmi's family and he himself agreed to very happily, and that condition is that I will not fight for. That is what I told them, that I will not fight for your acquittal. I will fight to bring out the truth in this matter. If you are happy with that. So Mr. Kazmi and his family actually were very forthcoming, and they were very happy. So
you mean like if there's a big if they are like involved, so you will not just fight to acquit them, but fight for the truth to come out.
Yes,
that's what you implied.
Yes.
So
which is not a done thing as per Advocates Act, and there is responsibility of a defense counsel. That is why I am giving you this anecdote. So that.
But why you chose it? Was it simply because you had personal relation and you knew Mr. Kazmi, or there was something which provoked you? Because you said you also lived in that preconceived notions. So how, like, there was several terror cases. What made you change your mind?
As I said, because I knew him personally.
That was one. Purely.
And then also I took another safety, and I am ashamed of myself for asking these questions, because what I am finding. Let me continue, and I will narrate to you the entire story. So this was what it was, and he said, in fact, I don't fight for. This is what Mr. Kazmi also said, that you don't fight. Please don't fight to get me acquitted. Fight to bring out the truth, and I am confident. This is what Mr. Kazmi said, that if the truth comes out, I will be absolutely innocent, proven absolutely innocent, and maybe probably you can catch hold of the real culprits also. That was the triggering point actually. And what I got to know, and after that I put this question to every person who approaches me. As an advocate, I am supposed to, and I am as per the ethics of advocacy, I am supposed to defend my client with all my might, but I accept these cases on this condition. So there is a tacit or a direct understanding between me and my clients.
In all cases?
In all cases. And that is why I am ashamed of myself. That is exactly what I am saying. And I think every law-loving and constitution-loving lawyer should actually rethink that actually this is something which every lawyer should do who has love for the constitution of the country. So taking things from there on, then what I saw in Mr. Kazmi's case and every other case which I took up is horrifying. Not only that these people are innocent, but they have been falsely implicated. These are the evidences which have come on record by way of the evidence collected by the police and the investigating agencies themselves. These are not defenses or defense evidences which I am talking about. I am talking about the evidences which have been collected by the police. They themselves betray of not only the innocence of the accused, but also betray of the fact that the real culprits, real terrorists have been shielded, saved by the investigating agencies, which is horrifying and which is actually very sad also. So one of the necessary corollaries of my taking up these cases is also the fact that if you involve innocent people in these matters and satisfy the collective conscience of the society that we have caught the real terrorists, then you are letting go of the real terrorists who will be now more bold. Knowing that they are not being caught, they will be more bold to commit such terror activities more and more with renewed vigor. So actually this is counterproductive. And if somebody wants to really fight war against terror, then real people should be caught, and these police officers and also people who are behind them, political as well as bureaucratic people, they are also part and parcel of this larger conspiracy of supporting terrorists, real terrorists, to weaken India. That is why I say that every law-abiding citizen and every constitution-loving lawyer should take these cases up and go to the root of it and protect India, which is now being attacked by this very new method of creating circumstances which make India look like a disturbed country, creating circumstances to dissuade foreign direct investment in India, and creating circumstances to harm India's interests. One example which I can give is our own Petroleum Minister, Mr. Veerappa Moily, about 3 or 4 months back gave a statement in the press, and that is related to Mr. Kazmi's case. He said that $8.5 billion have been lost by India deciding under international pressure not to buy oil from Iran. That is 57,000 crore rupees have been lost, and we have suffered losses to that tune. And that has also resulted in the escalation in prices of every consumable item in the country. So these are the terms that one should be concerned about, and this is the importance, or this is the real reason as far as I can see, apart from other international political motives. This is one of the reasons which I see why Mr. Kazmi was falsely implicated in this case.
But when you succeeded in getting bail for Mr. Kazmi, that proved a kind of boost for yourself, and you started fighting several terror cases. So could you list out few important cases for our readers? And
I mean, to call it a boost for myself would be not the correct thing to say, because even before Mr. Kazmi got bail, I had started receiving other cases with the condition I told you before. And as of now, to list a few, I will not, because there is a long list, it will be a wastage of time, saying almost 60 to 70% of all the terror cases in the country.
But estimate, you are like how many cases? 20, 15?
I As
the
of now,
moment?
more than 50 cases are
More than 50 cases you're handling.
main cases, and hundreds of accused are involved in that. So, to name a few important ones, one would be German bakery blast case. That is Mr. Himayat Beg, who got convicted, and I am handling his appeal. He got 5 death sentences and 6 lives, and he is an innocent person as is now coming out from the investigations of NIA and other places. Then I am also handling Malegaon case. I am also handling Delhi High Court blast, 2011 Delhi High Court blast case. Then Jangli Maharaj blast case in Pune, and then the entire basic conspiracy theory of Indian Mujahideen. All those cases I am also handling. Chinnaswamy blast in
So who approaches you for this case? Jamiyat or like which are the organization, or you independently families of these youth who are behind bars approach? Like what is the motive?
But every way, because everybody knows now, because I have said this many times in the press and everything. Anybody who thinks, any organization, any individual who feels that his relative or friend or whoever is innocent, and he wants to find out the truth in these matters. So I offer my services to everyone, and this is not just confining to Muslims, even tribal. Some of the tribal cases, people, innocent tribals who've been arrested in these stringent laws, have also approached me. I am taking their cases up. But my basic condition is the person should be innocent and he has a love for our country, India. If these two conditions are solved, then they are satisfied, then I take up these cases without charging any fees. So anybody can approach
So
me.
if organization like say Jamiyat or Jamaat are not approaching you and these family approach you, so like do you charge them fees, or like how
No.
does it work?
No.
You don't charge
I
them.
don't charge
Do
any
they
fees
pay
for these cases.
voluntarily?
No,
Like
I don't
other
accept.
you don't
I
accept.
don't accept. Even if they pay voluntarily, because I think this is a service I am doing not only to weaker sections of the society like Muslims and tribals, but this is a service we are doing for our country, India.
You mentioned about Himayat Beg case. He's been, as you said, pointed out, he convicted on many counts, and now the truth and are coming with the investigation. What prompted you to, because he was already convicted, and you already said the condition you set is that he should be innocent, but he was convicted on many counts, and still you chose his case. Like what prompted, and who approached you for this case, and what prompted you to take up this case?
For this case, Jamiat Ulama Hind, led by Maulana Mahmood Madani's president in Maharashtra president, and I must take his name because he's a very brave and righteous Muslim leader, Nadeem, Hafiz Nadeem, who is the president of Jamiat Ulama in Maharashtra. He approached me for this matter, and as I said, getting convicted is one aspect, and I can elaborate that if you like. What condition I put is, I take this word, the word of the family members, and you should also remember that getting convicted from a trial court is just one thing. There is a system if you succeed in appeal. But after putting this condition, I also do some checking on my own. I study the charge sheet or the case of the police. So that also gives me whatever little experience I have about criminal law. That gives me a fair idea whether the person is innocent or not.
After going through documents, are you convinced that he is actually innocent and he has been falsely convicted?
Yes, I am fully convinced. As I said, whatever little experience I have, and that my experience and my understanding is also being strengthened by fact, which is because Himayat Beg's case was also investigated later on by NIA. They have given a finding that he was not involved. It was also investigated by 2 other investigating agencies apart from the Maharashtra. It is a case of Maharashtra.
It is.
So Delhi Police, this is Delhi Special Cell, and CCD Bangalore. These are 2 other investigating agencies who have said that Himayat Beg is not involved. Some other people are involved, and I'm not saying that those other people may or may not be guilty. I cannot comment on that because I am not handling their case. But the fact remains that it's 3 investigating agencies, my own understanding of the case and the charge sheet and the subsequent events all point towards one fact that Maharashtra ATS led by Mr. Rakesh Maria was responsible not only for falsely implicating Himayat Beg, but also in the process actively saving the real terrorists. And for that, I say that these police officers, including Mr. Rakesh Maria, should be arrested for conducting activities which are terror related. I mean, he's committed offences prima facie which are terror cases, in fact, and he should be arrested.
Yeah. You mentioned about Rakesh Maria case. You plan to file FIR, file petition to lodge FIR against him. What is the status of?
As I said, my prime goal in these matters is to also, apart from getting these innocents acquitted, is also to find out the real terrorists in these matters and have them arrested and face the consequences as per law. In Himayat Beg's case, what has come out is that Maharashtra ATS, led by Mr. Rakesh Maria, who was then the head of ATS and chief of ATS Maharashtra, they not only implicated an innocent called Mr. Himayat Beg, but they also saved the real terrorists, because 3 other investigating agencies have given this finding that somebody else was in it. So, obviously, as a citizen, I have a duty to inform a cognizable offence to relevant authorities and the court. So, this is what I am going to do. And if I don't do it, I fail in my duty as a citizen, and which is a cognizable, which is an offence again. So, it is my duty to inform terrorist activities of Mr. Rakesh Maria, the then head of Maharashtra ATS, and this entire team investigating Himayat Beg's case. And this thing is not just true for Mr. Rakesh Maria. This is true for many other officers against whom I have conclusive evidence to at least register an FIR against them, and law should take its own course. Nobody is above law. So, Mr. Rakesh Maria's case comes because NIA has recently released their additional charge sheet, which once again points towards the fact that Himayat Beg was innocent. So, his name is sprung up that, but he, I think, has taken it very in a manner which is not suitable for a police officer like him, if at all he is, because I don't find any of characters of a police officer in him. Going through the evidences I am seeing in all the charge sheets which have been filed under his leadership. So he has started threatening me through underworld. But these things don't scare me at all. Law will take its own course, and I will show one more thing to people who are in high places. And I know there are other people also. I know all the details who all are behind Mr. Rakesh Maria.
You are clearly accusing
Yes,
Mr. Rakesh Maria of the threats you got calls, threatening calls few weeks
I have substantive and enough evidence against Mr. Rakesh Maria that he is the one. Unfortunate part is that he is using the underworld. He is the one who is supposed to catch the underworld. He is using the underworld to threaten a person like me, whose only fault is that he is following the law. What I am doing is presenting my case to the judges. Whatever relief or whatever orders are being passed by the judges. So it is a direct attack on judiciary. But I want to show these people that Constitution of India and the laws made under them are sufficient not only to tackle underworld, dons, international or national, but our Constitution and the laws are also sufficient to catch hold of these terrorists who are sitting today in the garb of police officers.
I'll come to threat part later, but you got another feather in your crown when the Session Court revoked Mokoka in Pune 2012 blast case. Could you please elaborate on that?
See, one of the, I'm not very comfortable to call these things feather in my cap, but these are very, very unfortunate things, because in our criminal jurisprudence, there are certain basic concepts. If we falter on them, if as a country, as a society we falter on them, then the results are going to be devastating. One of the basic reasons or the basic concept of a free and fair trial involves neutral police investigation and then neutral prosecution by the state lawyers, public prosecutors.
unfortunate part is both the police officers, who are supposed to be a neutral agency, investigating agency, and the public prosecutors, supported by their respective governments, are acting in an adversarial manner, in a vindictive manner in this case. And again, I will repeat, I am not saying it from my heart. I am saying all this with all the evidence, scientific and substantive evidence in my possession to say all these things. In what is unfortunate in Makoka cases, especially when they are being slapped on people who already have been slapped with cases like under UAP, terror laws, is the fact that Parliament, in its wisdom, this is the reason which I highlighted and by which we got the Makoka quashed against all the people who have been slapped with Makoka based on charge sheets under UAPA, that is terror laws. So the reasoning which I gave was Maharashtra government in another case, Zamir Ahmed, before the Supreme Court. Now this is what is hurting. Took a stand while the Vairis of Makoka was challenged in the Supreme Court. They took a stand in a very sly manner, I would say, that Makoka and UAPA function in different domains. So therefore, Makoka is not ultra vires, the constitution, as well as UAPA, because they function in different domains. And we lost the case in the Supreme Court. That case I was not handling, but the concept we lost, and Makoka's vires was upheld by the Supreme Court on the statement that they are functioning on a different field. But unfortunately, what we highlighted now is that if you have charge sheets, because there is a precondition for invoking Makoka, it is there for crime syndicate, people who are indulging themselves in crime for money or financial gains. So therefore, if you invoke the provisions of UAP, if you invoke the provisions of terror laws, charge sheets of terror laws to invoke Makoka, then you are acting in a vindictive manner, because you yourself, your state government has said in the Supreme Court that these two function in different domains. So if you are using that, something which is of a different domain, for invoking Makoka, that is ultra vires to that extent. So either you have to concede that Makoka is ultra vires and you took a false stand before the Supreme Court, or you have to release Makoka provisions against these accused. This is what the court decided in our favor.
That was your argument in the court, but
Yeah.
what would be the larger implications according to you of this particular case,
Now,
like on other cases?
The other cases would be that every single case of UAPA, in which charge sheets of UAPA have been invoked to invoke Makoka or used to invoke Makoka, Makoka will be not applicable to them, and they will be simpliciter and be cases of UAPA, which is again a stringent law, draconian law. So you want to actually put two cages.
Stringent
Two
laws.
cases. This shows your vindictiveness, and this shows that you want to go against the will of the Parliament, because Parliament, while enacting UAPA, had in its knowledge, or they were well informed about the provisions of Makoka also. Yet they chose not to use certain provisions, stringent provisions of bail of Makoka, certain stringent provision of confession before the police officers in UAPA, but you want to defeat the intent of Parliament, because this UAPA is a act later in time than Makoka. So, which is like
Advocate Shahid Azmi also used the same argument, but he could not succeed in what you have succeeded. Are you confident that you can continue his legacy, and do you want to continue his legacy, or you want to chart a separate path for yourself?
Well, I don't know what his legacy was. He was just fighting for the truth, and he got many people acquitted. I am also fighting for the truth.
But do you see yourself as like in relating to cases as someone who is in a way continuing his legacy? Or
Well, I can say that I approach these matters in a different manner, because I go to the root of these problems. I don't know why he did not succeed in this, because actually we have used the strength of an argument of a lost case in Supreme Court to our benefit, because I try to go to the root of everything. But I'm unsure to comment on what Shahid Azmi's argument were, why he took up this argument, because this argument was used in Supreme Court and we lost.
You have already started getting threats. Are you scared that he lost his life fighting for the innocence? Are you not scared?
Well, I am grateful to Allah Almighty that He has not given me something called fear from my childhood days. So something I don't know, I cannot use it. That is to say it simply, but I can say with all conviction and all the, again, knowledge in my command of law, constitution and the system which we are living in. I am not Shahid Azmi, one, and this is a message I am giving to people who want to kill me. I am not Shahid Azmi. I know how to use the strength of our constitution and law to get all the people, including those underworld dons, behind the bars, using the power of law.
Have you filed cases?
I will file cases. I am in the process of showing them that the majesty of law is far above all these criminal police officers, be them in higher places or highest places. I will catch hold of, through law, every single terrorist involved in such activities, be it the police officers or the political or their political bosses or their bureaucratic bosses.
Last question. You are also fighting Mansoor P. Purbai cases. Could you elaborate on the technical aspect of those that case in particular?
Yes. See, again, as I said, this is one more reason why my conviction to take up these cases becomes stronger and stronger. In those cases, in Mansoor Pir Bhai's case, what I have filed is bail application before the session court. What I have argued in the bail application is, and this is along with Makoka, because the session judge Makoka judgment has been stayed by the High Court, and the arguments are coming on 7th of next month. I am reasonably sure that we will uphold or carry our arguments in the Supreme Court also, or in the High Court, and then if need be in the Supreme Court. But Mansoor Pir Bhai's case is another classic case where there is not even an iota of the most crucial aspect of the entire case of Mansoor Pir Bhai or anyone of the accused who have been arrested in that case of sending any email. The scientific data which has been supplied, which has been adduced in the charge sheet of the CFSL report clearly points out, clearly illustrates that Mansoor Pir Bhai was not the person who sent these emails. Yet he has been arrested. The CFSL also points out to the fact who has actually sent these emails. But those people have not been investigated. So this is what I mean when I say that these are terrorists. These police officers are acting like terrorists because they are aiding and abetting the real terrorists and catching hold of the innocent people to save the real terrorists. So under section 18 and in section 15 to 20 of the UAPA, these are terrorist activities. Be it whether they are being committed by police officer or a common citizen. Law is equal for all.
One last question. Sorry to ask one more. If you are convinced that Mansoor Pir Bhai is innocent, but that puts to scrutiny the entire theory of the several, not just Mumbai ATS, but several investigating agencies on Indian Mujahideen, because he has been shown as the technical guy of Indian Mujahideen. So would you want to? So would you? What would you like? What is your conviction? Your own impression of Indian Mujahideen and the several cases across the nation, across countries, in several states on Indian Mujahideen?
As I said, Mr. Rakesh Maria has managed to bring himself in the limelight. That is why I have to take his name again and again. But there are so many other police officers who are going the same way. But none of them has actually threatened me with underwood. So he has got this invited on himself. If you threaten me like this, I am going to fight back by legal means. So therefore, he has brought himself into the limelight himself by using Ravi Pujari as a don to kill me. But the fact remains that there are other police officers, there are many police officers in many states who are acting along with terrorists, the real terrorists, and implicating these faults. And we are duty bound as citizens to catch hold of each one of them and hand it over to the investigating agencies. One more thing I want to add here is that one of the basic faults in our investigating agencies is that honest police officers, they are being sidelined. Honest police officers are being posted in police training schools and on posts which are not of significance, in fact punishment postings. And officers with the known corrupt backgrounds are being placed in important posts like handling terror cases, especially I'm concerned with that, which is very sad. The civil society should take up that only people with impeccable integrity should be heading or be used in such matters of national importance. That is very important in these matters, because I'm not again saying all these things. Everything I say, whatever comes from my mouth, is based on solid evidence. I'm saying this all about these police officers who are heading these terror departments or terror wings of investigation in various police departments is by way of various judicial findings which have been given against them. These are not my words.